Good evening, everybody. It's my privilege to call to order this September 3rd, 2025 meeting of the James City County Planning Commission. Ms. Istenis, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Haskins.
Present.
Dr. Haskins is an at-large member. Dr. Allman.
Present.
Dr. Allman represents the Roberts District and is vice chair of the commission. Mr. May. Mr. Everson.
Here.
Mr. Everson represents the Stonehouse District. Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Mr. Rogers represents the Berkeley District. Mr. Polster.
Here.
Mr. Polster represents the Jamestown District. And Mr. Haldeman.
Here.
Mr. Haldeman is an at-large member and will be presiding over this meeting as the chair of the commission. I'm Susan Istenis, Director of Planning for the county, and it's my pleasure to serve as the secretary to the commission. Sitting to my left is Ms. Liz Parman, Deputy County Attorney. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We now have time for public comment. This is an opportunity for residents to address the Planning Commission on any topic not subject to a public hearing tonight. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Would anybody like to address the Planning Commission? Is Mr. Huckabee here? You submitted a card. It looks like a topic that's not a public hearing, so come on up.
May I begin? All right. Hello, I am Andrew Huckabee. I live on 115 Deerwood Drive in the Powhatan district. And I was reading documents and permits and all of that about the proposed Chickahominy Summer Place subdivision. And I was also reading the Engage 2045 comprehensive plan. And it seems like the two plans are not necessarily in concurrence. So I have relevant documents, on permit leak, the numbers, or plan numbers, I mean. You'll have to excuse my public speaking. But on page 4, or on page 99, I mean, of Engage 2045, it states that the soil is pretty unfavorable for on-site septic systems, and that's what's proposed here. Additionally, on page 122, the Yarmouth Creek watershed is pretty biodiverse in comparison to other areas in the county. On page 260, it says that, on Centerville Road, to the west of Centerville Road, suburban style development should be discouraged. On page 297, on page 262 as well, it states that rural roads in James City County are for mature tree canopies and all of that, or are known for that, and that includes Jolly Pond Road. Oh, also I should say that this is on 1613 and 1685 Jolly Pond Road, respectively, kind of across from the convenience center. And on page 297, in support of zoning, it states that zoning from 1 to 10 acres is not, it's difficult to achieve rural preservation with that lot size, and these lots are supposed to be just above 3 acres. I have a little bit of time to spare. I can give you this sheet if you would like. It's not very professional looking, but you can. And that's what I have to say. It kind of seems like it doesn't fit with the rural nature of the road. And I have 30 seconds to spare, so that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments.
No problem.
Great. Reports of the commission. Policy committee did not meet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Development Review Committee, Mr. Polster.
The Development Review Committee met at 4 p.m. on 20 August 2025. The committee members present were Jack Haldeman, Steve Rogers, Scott May, and Frank Polster. Staff members present were Morgan Riesinger, Planner 2, Hannah Honeycutt, Administrator Coordinator, Fire Marshal Joe Davis, Solara Woods applicants Tim Trapp, Jay Epstein, and Morgan Wachowski, and 17 Bush Springs residents were in attendance. Conceptual Plan 25002, Solara Woods Water and Sewer Subdivision Exception Request. The applicant seeks an exception to permit 38 residential lots to utilize individual wells and septic systems, rather than extending public water and sewer lines that is typically required for a major subdivision. The applicant had a similar request that was withdrawn after being heard by the Planning Commission in 2022. The properties involved are zoned R1, limited residential, and are both inside and outside the county's primary service area. Although only an area outside the PSA was to be developed, inclusion of any property inside the PSA triggers Section 19-59A and Section 19-61 of the Subdivision Ordinance, which requires all major subdivisions inside the PSA to connect to public water and sewer systems respectively. The proposed subdivision of the property into 38 single-family lots exceeds 5 lots. It would involve extending the Bush Springs Road right-of-way through parcels within the PSA, requiring the subdivision to connect to public water and sewer systems. The developer would like to construct this subdivision without connecting to public water and sewer. Developer has proposed that each home be built with an in-home fire sprinkler system. The water supply for the sprinkler system would come from a large water holding tanks fed by a well located outside of each house. A DRC conceptual review of the Solara Woods exception request was held on 21 May 2025, where the DRC shared concerns on the exception proposal. In response to this conceptual review, the developer proposed condition referenced draft covenant language, which would require the homeowners association to retain a third-party property management company, require the HOA to complete annual inspections and maintenance of the in-house fire system, sprinkler system, and provide a record of the inspection to the county annually, and for the HOA to maintain a surety with the county. I think it was a $50,000 surety. The purpose of the surety would be for the county to complete inspection and maintenance of the in-house fire sprinkler system in the event that the HOA and third-party property management company had not completed the required inspections and maintenance. The surety proposed by the developer would have an initial amount of $50,000, would be adjusted for inflation every 5 years, and would be replenished by any amount used by the county for ensuing inspections and maintenance of the systems, a perpetual surety to the county. The staff's unfavorable factors to the proposal where the developer proposed for enforcement guarantees via a perpetual surety would represent a substantial burden on the county's resources and staff, and the fee structure and cost for managing and holding onto sureties for an extended length of time would also represent an ongoing burden and expense to the homeowners. The fire department stated its preference would be for the subdivision to connect to the public water system. This would enable fire hydrants to be strategically located throughout the subdivision per current standards. Bush Springs residents in attendance were offered an opportunity to address the DRC. Ms. Janice Jackson at 140 Bush Springs spoke at the group, expressing concerns listed in the letter to the DRC. The impact of traffic for 38 new homes and the possible drawdown of the aquifer. The applicant addressed the potential with well water by clarifying that the wells would come from a deeper aquifer and not impact the shallow wells of the Bush Springs Road. On the issue of improvements to the narrow road, this was a non-negotiable issue, but the applicant would jointly support the widening of the road with VDOT. DRC members did not question the efficacy of the technology for the proposed sprinkler system. DRC members were skeptical, however, of the small HOA's ability to manage and enforce maintenance of fire protection sprinkling systems over a 40-50-year lifetime, given competing requirements of limited HO resources for reserve funds to meet mandated requirements, even with the proposed sureties and disclosures to prospective homeowners of the HOA mandated responsibility. One DRC member found the proposed Solara Woods development outside of the PSA in rural lands to be inconsistent with the 2045 comp plan goals, strategy, and actions to protect the county's rural lands. The current and past comp plans are intended to restrict growth in rural lands to the supporting infrastructure inside of the PSA. The DRC, with a vote of 4-0, recommends that the Planning Commission not approve Conceptual Plan 25-002, Solara Woods Water and Sewer Subdivision Exception Request.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Polster? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the consent agenda. By the way, his report has to do with item number 2 on our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are deemed non-controversial. However, a planning commissioner can pull any item for discussion. There are 2 items for consideration, and I would like to pull item number 2, Development Review Committee Action Item C-25-0002, Solara Woods. Would anybody like to pull the other item?
I would, just to make a correction on the minutes. Do I do that now?
Sure.
On page 5, fourth line down, Mr. Polster did not close the public hearing. Mr. Halderman did.
Thank you very much. Any other edits to the minutes? Excuse me.
Move its approval.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I've pulled the Development Review Committee action item for further discussion. This is not a public hearing, it's just a discussion. Would the applicant like to make a statement?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Tim Trant. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Kaufman & Knowles. It's my privilege to be here this evening on behalf of the applicant, Marston LLC, the owner of the property. Just to try again to correct what has really been requested here, there seems to be lingering confusion about it. We are absolutely not applying for an exception from the requirement to connect public water and sewer to property outside the PSA. That's inconsistent with county policy and would not be permitted. The application that we have filed is to request an exception from the requirement to extend public water and sewer to the PSA property, the property inside the PSA. The county takes the position that the mere extension of a street is a major subdivision. A major subdivision in the PSA, the county further takes the position, triggers the requirement for the extension of public water and sewer, even if no lots are being proposed. So to be clear, what we have asked to do, what we would like to do, is to extend Bush Springs Road, a street, across property that is inside the PSA. We are not proposing any new parcels in the PSA property. No new lots, no new homes at this time, just the extension of a street. Question is, do we extend public water? Do we have to extend public water and sewer to do that, right? This commission acted quite authoritatively in 2022 to deny that request, to recommend denial of that request. Very affirmative, 6-1, I think the vote was, in opposition to the extension of public water and sewer. And by the way, not based on capacity and those types of things, which are typically associated with those requests, but based upon the impact to the neighbors. So this applicant is asking, consistent with that decision, that we be allowed to extend the street and not have to extend public water and sewer, which this commission has said we shouldn't do, okay? That's it. What happens on property outside the PSA is irrelevant because we're not and would not be permitted to extend public water and sewer to it, no matter what, right? This is an extension of a street. This application is the extension of a street on PSA property that requires, technically, the county opines, the extension of public water and sewer. And we are asking for an exception from that request, from that requirement, consistent with the decision of this commission just 3 years ago. We are even willing to go so far as to offer a condition to granting that exception, that no further subdivision of the PSA property be permitted without the extension of public water and sewer. So by approving this street extension, you are not opening the door in some way to the development of the PSA property without public water and sewer. That condition would mean if we want to develop the PSA property in any way, we got to come back to you and have another conversation, either another waiver or a special use permit. So again, I humbly submit to you that consideration of our plans for the by right development of property outside the PSA relative to a water and sewer extension requirement is really not germane and an inappropriate consideration. Because even if we did what the county ordinances require, even if we were fortunate to get a different reaction from this commission and the board, that a SUP for extension of water and sewer to the PSA property was appropriate and allowed, we still wouldn't be appropriate to connect it to the property outside the PSA. That's inconsistent with county policy, right? Property outside the PSA should be developed on private well and septic, which is what's being proposed. So I've tried to make that as simple as I can. But again, we are asking only for a waiver from the requirement to extend public water and sewer to the PSA property. That's it. Nothing more. We are proposing no development of the PSA property and are offering a condition to the approval of the exception that no development occur on the PSA property without having to come back before this board, without the extension of water and sewer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of other speaker cards. Bear with me. On this subject, Ms. Janice Jackson. Please state your name and address for the record.
Janice Jackson, 140 Bush Springs Road, Toanna.
Thank you.
I thank you to the Planning Commission this evening for hearing us out today. We, the current residents of Bush Springs Road community, would like to submit the following concerns, dissatisfactions that we have about the proposed Solara Woods community. We are not in favor of the building construction of this community to be located at the very end of Bush Springs Road. Because of the proposed assessed value of these new homes could exceed $450,000 and up, building this community with this price range would be the catalyst for increasing our real estate taxes. We are not in favor of this proposed project because the current rural road will not be able to handle the increased volume of traffic. 38 homes are proposed for this community. If each home has 2 cars, and most families do, each car is driven each day, that will be an additional 76 cars going out each morning and 76 cars coming in the afternoon. We are also dissatisfied if they construct 38 individual wells on this property, that it will have a negative impact on some of the wells of current residents. Many do not have deep wells. Most have shallow wells. We are not in favor of this proposed project because if it is decided that the better way for this project is to install public water and sewer down Bush Springs Road, then this could impact residents that have wells very close to Bush Springs Road, and the wells would have to be moved. In addition, this could be an enormous expense for them to dig another well. Additionally, if it is decided that public water and sewer is approved and installed, then the residents could have a mandatory connection fee, a fee that would be out of range for most residents, even to borrow. We, the residents of Bush Springs Road, do hereby officially propose the following. First and foremost, we respectfully ask, request, and recommend that the Planning Commission will not and do not approve this community. If you must approve this project, we request that before you begin construction of these homes, that a new road is constructed according to the dimensions of State Route 60 with 2 specific lanes, width, and middle stripes. If this is not done at the very beginning of construction or before construction, you will be creating a catastrophic, unsafe environment for our community and all that drive on Bush Springs Road. If you must approve this project and public water and sewer is installed down Bush Springs Road, and it is mandatory that residents connect All of the expenses be payable by James City County and/or the developer of Solara Woods. Residents will not be responsible for fees for any of these connections or modifications. If new wells must be moved and dug, that they will be done at the sole expense of James City County or the developer of Solara Woods. If this project is approved with the individual wells for each home as currently proposed, and any of the current residents' private wells run dry, then the developer of Solara Woods will be liable and will be responsible for compensation to the
Mrs. Jackson,
resident.
we've hit your limit. Could you just take another brief moment and wrap it up?
Oh, well, that was the last of
Oh,
it
great.
anyway. That was
That-
it.
Good happenstance. Thank
But
you.
we appreciate you all hearing us, and we hope that you give this matter deep consideration for the current residents on Bush Springs Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. James Braxton. Mr. Braxton? No? Okay. That's it for speaker cards. I'm sorry. We'll open it for discussion or a motion.
Well, I'll start it off. I think all of you had an opportunity to see Mr. Trant's email that he sent to us. And one of the opening comments that he made was that the DRC did not make its decision based on the criteria provided in section 1918 of the subdivision ordinance. And I will tell you that this is the third time I've had to look at the staff's. It's the third time I've had to go through the staff's report on this issue, the one early in the spring, the summer, and then again for tonight. And the staff was rather consistent in laying out specifically on each of the criteria that were there why they objected to this. And so I don't believe it's true that we didn't consider what the staff had to say, nor in any of the discussions that I recall that any of us really questioned that. As a matter of fact, we supported it for a little different perspective on it. When it comes down to the first one on the strict adherence to the requirements for the injustice and hardship, you may recall that the staff found that the absence of the ordinance requirement would not create any substantial hardship for the property owner, given that the property owner is choosing to pursue a more intensive development of the property and retains the ability to use the property for residential purposes of the current view. As you may recall in my DRC report, the proposed Solara Woods development outside of the PSA is in rural lands. And it really is inconsistent with our current 2045 comprehensive plans, goals, strategies, and actions to protect those rural lands. And so the current and past comp plans are intended to restrict that growth in those rural lands to the supporting infrastructure of the PSA, which is why I believe the staff was trying to ensure that whatever was put there was supported by that infrastructure. And to go back to the 2 year ago one, you'll notice in his report he quotes me in there and why some of the objections I had. And if you went through there, you may not have quite understood that it was the impact on which of those 27 houses were along that road that would be impacted with the septic or the well or whatever. And so I was fortunate enough to get the Williamsburg VDH guys to send me at least 7 addresses on there in less than a week, which I shared with their attorney at that time, Mr. Giddy. And so when we went down through those 7, majority of them were set back, and they weren't going to be impacted by the right-of-way, which is 15 feet on either side for the utilities. But it ended up, we stopped in the middle of that discussion because one of the wells was right in the middle of that 15 foot. And the question was, okay, what about the other 20? So we really didn't know what the impact was going to be on those 27 residents on there, which is the reason that I believe that the Planning Commission at that time voted not to recommend approval for it. And in fact, I went back in the March timeframe when this resurfaced again and asked the Williamsburg Health Department to please give me all 27. And in fact, it was kind of revealing that one house, which was really a trailer, didn't even have a septic system and was closed down. And of course, the other one with the well. But most of the wells that were there were shallow wells, 235 feet to 250 is what they show on the records for it. So it still bothers me today about the impact on that community and what due diligence we've done to try to commit to that. And on the one issue, that road, and I know most of you have had an opportunity to go down that road. You know how narrow it is. And I'm sure you can imagine what that road is going to look like at night, okay, without any streetlights of that. And it's in fact the playground for the kids. And so there's a safety issue associated with that that bothers me, which in fact goes to one of the criteria that we have for it, which I'll get to in a bit. And so the strict adherence, which was there, those were the concerns that I had that I think we in fact, in the first session that they asked for, we shared with them all of these things. And it's not to say that they didn't go back and talk with the community, but you saw the results of that. And so we still are kind of where we are with the impacts and the mitigations, if any, to the community. The other issue, I think, that really gets to this one issue of the granting of the exception will not detrimental to public safety, health, and welfare, and will not adversely affect the property of others, goes back to my first point of the impact onto the Bush Springs community. But there was a second thing that we spent a lot of time drilling in the first session and went through again with the fire chief. And believe it or not, the first session in writing, I had a document from the fire chief and from the chief of fire that said they didn't support this. And of course, the discussions that we had in that March town led to some of those concerns about the efficacy of the system itself. When we sat down and met again, I don't think any of us in the DRC took any exceptions with the efficacy of the technology that I reported in the report. I mean, we think it'll work. But most of us have this experience in one way or another with HOAs on their ability to monitor, and especially with a small 38 piece over time, I'm sorry. And so anecdotal, there were examples of that. My own has to do with the stormwater facilities. And we have better than, I don't know, 1,000, 12, as well as we have better than 8,000 septic systems inside of the PSA, of which we are required, the septic owners are required every 5 years to take a look at it. But the difference between a sprinkler system inside of the house is the county has no authority to go in there and look at it. And so we were bothered about how was it that the HOA was going to police that. And of course, there's this inspection notion of that, which is not an insignificant amount of money over a period of time. So we were very uncomfortable, at least I was very uncomfortable with the efficacy of not the system, but the ability to sustain and maintain the system over that period of time. And so underneath that piece of granting the exception for the health, welfare, and then the adversarial effects on the community, I was really clear about where I stood on that and why I supported that exception for it. There is this issue about the facts upon the request is based on are unique to the property and are not applicable generally to other properties, so as not to make reasonable, practical, and formation of general regulations to be adopted as an amendment to this chapter. I didn't have a problem with the staff's response on that, which was that the property was zoned for residential use while being designated rural lands. And so I'm back to this issue of what we wanted to do in the comp plan in terms of restricting growth. And as kind of an anecdote, this is actually my 5th time on this property, because during the comp plan, there was an effort on the part of the applicant to bring this piece of property into the PSA. And the issue associated with that got down to water and sewer. Water specifically, because of the major subdivision, it would have been required to have a central well system. Well, during that comp plan period, we made a recommendation to the board, and the board approved it, to stop central wells outside of the PSA because we wanted the infrastructure inside of that. And in fact, what was happening with these subdivisions that were approved outside of the PSA is that they were costing the county money because it's based on the number of houses filled. And of course, it takes years for that to happen. And so they had documented the loss of money to the county. So we stopped that central well, and it ended up that this property fell into that category. And oh, by the way, there are only 3 R1s outside of the PSA, okay? This one is undeveloped. The other 2 go back to the Riverview Plantation and Medford Woods in the upper end and fully developed. And so I think that if we were looking at the current comp plan and what we want for the rural lands, we would have never allowed this to be R1 to begin with. And some of us regretted the fact that it is outside of that. This idea that there were no objections, exceptions being received in writing from the Transportation Department, Health Department, and Fire Chief, I take exception to that because I did have something in writing. But more to the point, as we went through the second review of this thing, it's true that we didn't have anything from the Health Department or from the VDOT, but the fire folks still were reluctant, even though they said yes to the technology piece. They still had some reservations about being able to make sure that the system was sustained and how they would do that with all the rest of the sureties. And I actually think that they made that point very well, which is one of the reasons I included that in our report. So those are kind of the reasons why I still continue not to support this, because I think the staff did a good job in terms of its recommendations for it. And I will vote not to approve this.
Other comments? I'll give it a shot. I'm on the Development Review Committee. I voted no during the committee deliberations here a couple of weeks ago. I share a lot of Frank's assertions. And I'm going to wander here a little bit because I'm not sure it's relevant, but this is another example of a very poorly laid out land use scheme in our county, both the land use map and the zoning map. And of course, here's a direct contradiction. A R1 district outside the PSA contradicts everything in our comprehensive plan. The land use goal itself, on page 342, calls in part for, quote, limiting development on rural and natural lands outside the PSA, close quote. The plan defines the PSA as the county's foundational growth management tool. Specifically, land use goal number 4, quote, direct growth into designated growth areas in an efficient and low impact manner, close quote. Designated growth areas meaning PSA. Land use strategy 4.2, quote, provide for low density and moderate density residential development in appropriate locations inside the PSA and prohibit such development on rural lands outside the PSA, close quote. Land use 6.2, a strategy, quote, residential development is not a recommended use in the rural lands, close quote. And here we are. We have a parcel zoned for residential development. Doesn't make any sense to me. And yet we're not here, as I understand it, to vote on whether or not this development goes through. We're here simply to vote on whether the water and sewer gets extended up Bush Springs Road. I do think staff has come up with good reasons to deny the exception request. And so I don't think I'm going to change my vote tonight. I'm going to stay with it. That is to say, a negative vote. Please do.
And some of this is our own structure. I'm not sure I understand if I it's discussion, right? So
This is just not a
I'll
public,
ask.
not a public hearing.
and if someone here knows the answer, it would help me with my wrestling with this situation, because I voted no, but I was not a hard no. I was a struggling on the fence no. And I'm guessing in one of the iterations, this question was asked, and that the answer is probably really short, that probably the answer is no. But when I, being topographically challenged, which I am, when I look at the aerials of this area in the county, it struck me that there were other streets out there. I guess what I'm getting to is I have driven Bush Springs Road. It seems crazy narrow to me. I have trouble believing it's 30 feet, but that's what the plat tells me it is, 30 feet across. But when I'm up in the sky in my imaginary helicopter and I see Turlington and Vincent Drive or Oakland or Crescent, is it safe to know that there's no other way in? Like that you can't just close off Bush Spring and keep it narrow and quiet and enter the proposed Solara Woods some other way?
The answer is no.
Okay.
It is essentially a peninsula with deep RPA ravines on either side of the road. And so and I have looked at the topo of the entire area. As a matter of fact, one of the things I was trying to figure out is whether or not we could have, from an adjacent subdivision, pipe in the water into that place as opposed to bringing it all the way down Bush Springs Road for it. And so the answer is no, because of those steep ravines.
All right, thank you. That answers that one. My second question, because it's been in front of me and I just haven't really thought to ask for more explanation, but at the end of what I also agree is a great staff memo that describes the various criteria and reasons either for or against. There's some language at the very end of it, and by that I mean like the last sentence, which says, staff finds the consideration of a request of whether or not the impacts can be appropriately mitigated in all context can be better considered and accommodated for via the legislative process. I guess I don't understand the difference between what we are doing here and what would push it out of our lane and into the legislative lane. I don't know if any of us can help me.
Good evening, members of the commission. So yes, their exception request is for those lots that are proposed to be on well and septic systems versus on a public water and sewer system. And so if the exception requests were denied, the path forward is for the applicant to continue to pursue the special use permit to extend the public water and sewer to the development. And through the special use permit process, there is the ability for staff to condition potential impacts of the proposal. Certainly, that's the policy document of the comprehensive plan does not recommend extension outside of the primary service area. However, that's not a regulatory document. And should the applicant appropriately mitigate all of those impacts, that could be considered by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors outside of what a staff recommendation might be based on a policy document.
I think though I'm still, where is the legislative I guess I'm asking, what are we talking about when we've said better handled by the legislative process?
The special use permit to extend public water and sewer.
All right, so with that, I have third, then I'll give it up for good. The part I struggle with, and I do this in lots of our cases, I guess, is that unless I got this wrong, but that this R1 designation is 40 years old. I don't know when the company bought the parcel, but I'm assuming it was after, or at least with some reliance that zoning condition existed out there. And so I agree with my brother, Mr. Haldeman, that it seems to fly in the face of county planning and comprehensive plans. But it's a big piece of property with a lot of money uh, already invested going towards it, and it seems to be zoned for residential development by right. When I consider that with the idea that the new condition, would fence off the PSA property from further development, then it strikes me that legally, they're in the right spot. So that's my two cents.
Ending the road is the issue because you have to have the public utilities. Is that right? Do I understand that right? But this is outside the PSA?
There's part of the parcel is inside the PSA, a smaller part, and a larger part is outside the PSA.
That I got. Extending the road requires them to have the utilities also go with it?
An extension of a road or a creation of a new road in the county constitutes a major subdivision as defined in the subdivision ordinance. And further on, the subdivision ordinance defines that a major subdivision, which will be located inside the primary service area, requires it to be connected to public water and sewer. And so for this, that extension of the road is part and parcel to the major subdivision for the 38 homes, and as a whole must connect.
All these 38 homes are going to be outside the PSA? Is that?
Correct.
Thank you.
Else? For a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Make the motion that the planning commission deny conceptual plan 25. No, we're making that decision.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Making the motion that the planning commission deny conceptual plan 25-002 Solara Woods Water and Sewer subdivision exception request.
Ms. Stennis, please call the roll.
Mr. Polster,
Aye.
Mr. Rogers,
Nay.
Mr. Everson,
Nay.
Dr. Allman,
Aye.
Dr. Haskins,
Aye.
Mr. Haldeman.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-2.
Thank you very much. That's the only public hearing, or no, I'm sorry, that's the only other item on the consent agenda. We'll move on to public hearings. SUP-24-0029, 4059 Ironbound Road Communications Facilities. Mr. Sirico, good evening.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, Mr. Harold Timmons of Tower Engineering Professionals has applied on behalf of Dominion Energy for a special use permit to allow for the construction of a 176-foot self-supporting steel lattice microwave transmission tower with ground-mounted equipment. The proposed tower will replace an existing 150-foot tower on the property located at 4059 Ironbound Road. The new tower will be located approximately 175 feet north of the current tower, further from the Ironbound Road right-of-way. The property is zoned M1, Limited Business and Industrial, and is designated as mixed use in the 2045 Comprehensive Plan. A special use permit is required for any communication tower that exceeds 40 feet in height. The tower itself is 170 feet tall with a 6-foot lightning rod, and it will be equipped with a microwave and directional antennas and has the capacity to accommodate future antennas as needed. The tower's function is to provide point-to-point communication between Dominion facilities and work crews through microwave transmission. Staff has reviewed the proposal against county's performance standards, which are designed to minimize the tower's visual impacts. The policy for this industrial location calls for a minimal intrusion, which is defined as not being visible above the tree line. The applicant's visual analysis shows the tower will be visible from 3 of 12 vantage points. However, the proposed tower is shorter than the 241-foot tower on the adjacent property to the west. The proposal meets several other key standards. It is below the 200-foot threshold requiring FAA lighting or marking, and is self-supporting structure as required. County departments have reviewed the application. The fire department confirmed that the tower will not interfere with public safety communications network, and the building safety permits found that the tower's structural analysis to be acceptable. Per the zoning ordinance, several conditions will apply. The tower's color must be approved by the planning director, and no advertising signage will be permitted. The tower and its ground equipment will be screened by a fence no taller than 6 feet, which will either be black or green. The site also contains mature evergreen trees and shrubs which provide additional screening to the south. Staff recommends that Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed special use permit to the Board of Supervisors, subject to the proposed conditions. Staff also recommends that the Planning Commission find that the general or approximate location, character, and extent of this proposed public facility is substantially in accordance with the comprehensive plan and applicable parts thereof, as required by the Code of Virginia. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is available as well. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? You're off the hook. Thank you very much. Any disclosures by commissioners? With that, we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Harold Timmons, are you representing Dominion Power, right? Thank you for being here.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Harold Timmons. I'm with Tower Engineering Professionals, 10700 Sykes Place, Charlotte, North Carolina. First off, I'd like to say I think staff has done a very good job of providing you with an excellent and thorough assessment of our project. They've been great to work with in this process. I don't have any additional information to present to you tonight, but I'm here to answer any questions that you might have regarding our project.
Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Polster?
I'm in favor of the project, but I'm very curious. I'm a Dominion Power fan from the point of view that when a hurricane happens, you guys get out there and try to get the power back up. And so when this new microwave tower is going to be communicating with, I guess, your field, but it's through line of sight to some other tower, how is it that your crew then downloads it? Is it a radio or a cell, or how is it, are they doing
I guess you could say it's a high-tech dispatching system,
Okay.
in essence, and it is point to point from one tower to another tower. So I don't know the intricacies of how they communicate, but I'm sure the radios somehow or another communicate directly either from the dispatching hub to the vehicles where they have their radios in some form or fashion.
The reason I ask this is the county is going through some resiliency planning, and they held an affair here not too long ago with the community. And one of the things that they talked about was resiliency and the infrastructure. And so when I looked at your project and the upgrade for it, I thought immediately about how that infrastructure is going to support any resiliency efforts that we have for it. So I am supportive of your project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you wanted to get more details from Dominion about how their system operates, I certainly can put you in touch with individuals who can have that conversation.
Does anybody else have any questions of Mr. Timmons? Thank you very
do.
Oh,
I think my only question is, you're just making it taller?
Yes, it is going to be 20 feet taller than what it is currently, but we're relocating it to another location
Okay.
on the property. That is if we had just wanted to build it right within the same footprint of the existing tower, I believe if I'm correct, this would have been an administrative process.
Okay, I think I was getting confused with the word replace.
Well, the older tower is going to come down.
Okay,
Yeah, so
but the new one will be
the
relocated.
new one will be relocated
okay.
in the northwest corner of the property behind significant mature existing vegetation.
it'll be 26 feet taller than the one you're replacing.
That's correct. Well, it'll be 20 feet, then we've got a 6-foot lightning rod. Kyle.
Any other questions?
We reviewed the conditions of approval, and the client has agreed that they're perfectly satisfied with these conditions.
Thank Thank you very much. I have one speaker card. Linda Cifelli. I hope I pronounced that properly. Would you please state your address for the record?
Well, here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Linda Cifelli, and I live at 134 Winston Drive. That's off Jamestown Road. And I've lived there since 1996. And I just found out about this tower yesterday when I went to the James City County Zoning and Planning Office. So I looked up some information and I discovered the expiration for the grant to have the tower there that's sitting there now is August 2028. But Dominion wants to change it to have a tower that is some 4 feet taller. That's in a different part of the same property there. So when I spoke to the representative earlier today, he said they're not planning for 5Gs, which I'm concerned about 5Gs, and so are a lot of other people. 5Gs is not 1G added to 4Gs. It's not 2Gs added to 3Gs. It's a much more powerful and destructive force. Now, what I also heard from this man today was that after they put up this tower, some other carrier might come and want to add it to turn it into 5Gs. That's possible. And that, unfortunately, is what's going on in the state of Virginia. So all of these waves, they are destructive to our health. And who is it that says that the radiation waves are destructive to our health? There are many groups. So I put down on this paper, I'm with Virginians for Safe Technology, but there are negative effects to health, and they are in scientific documents of the Children's Health Defense, the Environmental Health Trust, the National Call for Safe Technology, Virginians for Safe Technology, Physicians for Safe Technology. There are many symptoms. When you are going to add up four more feet to this new tower and put in the new tower, a taller building means that it will go a further distance, yes, but it will also penetrate more into existing structures. Now, already a quarter of a mile down the street, I went into the urgent care and I measured what's going on in the urgent care. This is a meter. Now, people in the military use these meters. It's radiation. How much radiation is already there in the urgent care, where I have taken people, several people there. It's open 7 days a week. So you'll be dumping more into that facility. So there are other issues here. The FCC has not reevaluated standards for safety since 1996. And the U.S. Court of Appeals in 2021 judged that the FCC has clearly not done its job. Exposure to wireless is now being seen by the federal government as a major factor of chronic disease, especially in children. So, as I said, that tower now is there near the urgent care center. Increasing the height of the tower means it will penetrate the walls better. And, you know, there's just a lot of radiation that we're all being exposed to. And yesterday, I testified with the State Corporation Commission about the meter that they put on my house that I asked for in 2021. I sent them a registered letter to not put a smart meter on my house. So now I have a meter on my house that's pulsing. And so I spoke about that yesterday. I haven't spoken about the extra charges. I'm concerned about health effects. I am somewhat sensitive. That's why I asked not to put one on there. And as of, it's 2025, there is actually a medical diagnosis for electromagnetic radiation syndrome. It's official, bona fide, in the medical literature, coded so people can be billed and they will understand with something that's not wording. So it's not, this is not all
Shelley, you've
imaginary.
you've gone past your time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Pardon me. I have no other speaker cards. Would anybody else like to address the commission on this subject? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Open it for discussion or a motion. Two motions, actually. One motion to approve the SUP and one motion to find that it's compliant with the comprehensive plan. We'll, discussion first. Any? I drove around this in a fairly wide circumference, and looking at it from west to east, you can see these towers, particularly the big one, which is not subject to this hearing, from Casey Boulevard and Settlers Market, some of the residential areas behind the shopping center. You can see the top of the tall one. You can't see the top of the short one, although you may be able to see it once they add 26 feet to it. I don't know. But from the residential areas to the north and south, you can't see it. Driving up Ironbound Road from Monticello or from Strawberry Plains, you can't see it until you're almost on it because the trees, canopies are over it. I drove right by it. Yeah, I have, so I plan to support it anyway, but any other comments? Do you want to, which one should we do first, Susan?
I would find it consistent first and then approve second.
May I please have a motion that SUP 24-0029 is substantially in accord with the adopted comprehensive plan and applicable parts thereof, or that it's not in accord? Thank you.
Comprehensive plan.
Great, thank you. Call the roll, please, Ms. Istenes.
Mr. Polster?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Everson?
Aye.
Dr. Ullman?
Aye.
Dr. Haskins?
Aye.
Mr. Haldeman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I please have a motion on SUP 24-0029
With conditions.
with conditions? Thank you. Yep.
I'll move SUP 24-0029-4059 Ironbound Road Communication Facility Report that we recommend approval and with conditions.
Thank you. Please call the roll, Ms. Istenes.
Mr. Polster?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Everson?
Aye.
Dr. Ullman?
Aye.
Dr. Haskins?
Aye.
Mr. Haldeman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Planning Director's report, Ms. Istenes.
Nothing additional.
Thank you. Board of Supervisors coverage for Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 9th at 5 p.m. Dr. Nallman, you're on that. Thank you. There will be a policy committee meeting on Thursday, September 11th. That's next Thursday at 3 p.m. And a development review committee Wednesday, September 17th at 4 p.m. I have nothing else.
I had a question for staff is do we know what the topics are for the policy committee meeting and the DRC meeting?
DRC is the stocking rates. Policy, I'm sorry. What is it? Oh, okay. Oh, not sure about DRC at this
We
moment.
have one pending case that.
I'm sorry.
We have one pending case that might go to either September or October. Excuse me. It's a change, kind of a change of use in the colonial heritage Subdivision from their model home or their sales office to change it into a more community facility now that the sales office is no longer needed for the development. It's a current site plan right now, but I think the packet's a couple weeks away, so we'll have that finalized here.
One more follow-on, Tom. Do we know when we're going to see the Cardinal Ridge and the West Park Woods or Westwood Park?
Tentatively, right now, Westwood is looking at October for their Board of Supervisors meeting. They had a few changes to their application that's under review again. Cardinal Ridge resubmitted, I believe, a week ago, or maybe a week and a half ago. They have not indicated which meeting we're aiming towards, so see, we're at September, so the earliest they could go now is November. I think it'd be a stretch for them to make the October meeting for the Planning Commission.
Westwood Park won't come back to the Planning Commission. It'll go directly to the board?
Correct, unless the board decides to send it back to the Planning Commission, given the changes that were proposed.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Yep.
Anything else for the good of the order? Mr. Rogers?
Just put it out there in case someone happens to be watching or happens to be sitting here tonight, but for the Berkeley district, we're having a open house, kind of a town hall meeting. I guess town hall meeting would be a better way to describe it, at 6 p.m. at Legacy Hall in Newtown tomorrow night. So that's Supervisor Ruth Larson.
Thank you.
Come.
Anything else? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming.